Hello, everybody, and welcome to December. Welcome to Cooking Up a Storm with Midweek Matters. And our first speaker and guest this month is Ian Taverner, otherwise known as Mr. Cookfulness. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Ian. I'm not going to tell you too much because I know he's going to share a lot more, which helps guide the evening. But Ian has a disability. He has chronic illnesses, and he finds cooking as a way um, to for him to get some his therapy. He's the creator and author of Cookfulness, the first ever cookbook designed specifically for people like him who suffer with disability or illness, and not only to help you get into the kitchen and cooking, but want to cook, love to cook, and find the amazing therapeutic value that cooking can provide. Through his own battles, trying to find ways to cook with his disabilities, he's unpicked and unwound the traditional cookbook, taking away all the barriers that stand in the way of cooking, replacing them with positive stepping stones, hints, and tips to allow you not only to get back into the kitchen, but to absolutely love it and use it as part of your daily therapy. So it gives me great pleasure to invite Ian, Mr. Cookfulness, to join us on Midweek Matters and help us get ready for the festive season.
Well, thank you, Miriam. I feel a bit emotional listening to that. It was very nice. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and it's so good to see you all. And thank you so much for inviting me on. It's wonderful to be here. So what I thought we'd do tonight is going to break it up into little sections. I'll start with just a little bit about me and about how I got to be sat here doing what I'm doing. Then I thought we'll make a little healthy snack along the route, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some ways that you can help yourself with the kitchen. So just changing the rules a little bit to make it a bit easier to cook and to access cooking. Then we're going to make some mince pies, which are so simple. They're the best mince pies, but they're really, really easy to make. And then if we've got time, we'll have a chat about Christmas and preparing for cooking and eating on Christmas Day, which can be incredibly stressful. So we're going to go through all of that. If we can fit all of that in, fantastic. If we can't, we'll see where we get to. So just to say, my sessions, I like them to be as open and interactive as you want them to be. If you prefer to have your camera off and your mic off, that's absolutely fine. If you want to ask any questions, then please don't wait. Just butt in and ask me a question about any. It could be about anything. Please don't worry about that. Just ask the question because that's how we make things a bit more fun and a bit more interesting. And it could be things that you suddenly think, oh, I wish I'd asked that one. Well, just ask it. There's nothing off limits, and we'll have a good chat about it, and hopefully we can help each other with the answers to the questions. So let's start with a bit about me. So as Miriam said, I'm Ian. I'm called Mr. Cookfulness, and I haven't done this for too long. It's been probably about the last 3 years that I've been doing this. Before that, I had a 20-year career in financial services and was fine. Everything was great. But towards the end of that, my health started to deteriorate. Mental health, then physical health, then mental health, and physical health. And it didn't really throw up anything that was saying what's wrong. There wasn't any great markers. It was just, I was just getting ill more often. And then it came to a head where I was taking more and more time off work. Weeks were turning into months, having to take time off. And I went into that cycle of trying to understand what was wrong. And it was very, very difficult to find people who could tell you what was going wrong. And that, I think that makes things worse because you're sort of making things up as to what it could be. So for a long, long time, I went into this, what I call the groundhog cycle. It was pretty much every day was just, I was just doing stuff. I had to stop working. I had to give up work. I was missing sort of family events or Christmases, birthdays. My kids were young, so I was missing a lot of those events. And the longer it went, the worse things were getting. So I was suffering with chronic pain. I was getting tremors, seizures. and various things were happening, and also depression and anxiety were all knitting together and making it pretty much unpleasant. And eventually, I was starting to get diagnosed, and the first things I got diagnosed with actually was arthritis, which was not what I was expecting. And I had to have both my hips replaced in my late 30s, which was an interesting experience, and had them both replaced, but it actually didn't really change very much. I was still feeling pretty awful, and physically and mentally. And then I was diagnosed with what's called functional neurological disorder, FND. And it's a sort of condition that I guess it mirrors a little bit Parkinson's disease to a degree, but it's not the same. It's not as sort of degenerative as Parkinson's. But what it basically means is that I have tremor in this hand, which sort of comes and goes, but whatever. I have difficulty gripping things. I can't, it's very hard to sort of hold things too tightly. Mentally, the brain fog comes in quite a lot and unexpectedly at times. Physical pain all over. Yeah, it's what it is what it is. And then, unfortunately, I thought that getting diagnosed was going to be the great answer, but it wasn't. It was just another step in the sort of process of where I was, because there didn't seem to be anyone out there who could help me with, well, how do I live with this? You know, what do I do? How do I make this happen? Which is why it's so wonderful to be here talking to you, because I imagine it, 5, 6, 7 years ago, if I was able to get to a group like this, it would be like, wow, this is amazing. I've got, people I can talk, who understand what's going on. They understand me. I don't feel embarrassed to talk about things, and we all just go, yeah. There's a little nod of the head that says, yeah, I agree. I understand what you're saying. So I didn't have, or didn't feel I could find anyone who could help, and because of that, the physical and mental health was starting to intertwine and take me down that way. I think one pulls the other, and they were going deeper down. And that was a number of years where that happened. And it was only when I was lucky enough to get on a residential program in Bath. It's an NHS, the National Centre for Pain Services in Bath. And it's a 4-week program. There's sort of 10 of you on it, adults, and it was probably the most scariest thing I've ever done, because to be away from home when you're really suffering and not knowing what on earth was going to happen. But as soon as I got there, I knew that these people could help, because they weren't just dealing with the arthritis, with the FND, with the mental health. They dealt with everything, and they took 4 weeks to sort of understand that this is impacting this. This is why your brain's telling you this. This is why your body's feeling like this. They can't cure you, because if they could, they'd be millionaires, and they're not. But they could help. What they did, they helped me to understand what was happening. And that was like the fog lifting, going, wow, I now see that I'm not stupid. I'm not making this up. It really is there. And they understand. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. And it was actually part of that program. And it was week 2. I remember it specifically, where we had an occupational therapy task. And they said, we want you to do something that you would normally not do, because you'd find it too daunting, too difficult, too painful. And we were in the center of Bath at the time, and there was a massive Waitrose just down the road. And I said, right, well, I'm going to walk to that with my sticks. I'm going to go down to Waitrose, and I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to buy something. And that was a massive thing for me to try and do, because crowds of people, of being in these places, of not knowing where I was. But I went in, and after a while, I saw these recipe cards that, you get the recipe cards sometimes in supermarkets, and you can pick them out. And I just grabbed some, and I left. And I felt great that I'd been there. But when I got back to where we were having all the program, I started reading them, thinking, I'd love to be able to make this, but this is making no sense whatsoever. I'm looking at these cards, and it's like, I don't know what they're saying. I don't understand it. I can't read it. And it's not a dyslexia, but it's a type of, you're sort of looking at it going, it's not making sense. I don't understand how you're going to make that by these instructions. And that's stuck with me for the next 2 weeks that I was there. And when I got home after the 4 weeks, I said to my wife, I really want to try cooking because I think that could be really good for me. And the reason I thought it would be good was that I'd have to be there every day because you cook every day. I'd be up, the kids would see me, I'd be a bit more visible, and it would be something that I was actually doing and I was providing. It's like this is going to be fantastic. Let's cook. I used to cook a bit. I used to quite like it, but I hadn't cooked for years, particularly when I was feeling so unwell. So this is it. First day, I'm going into the kitchen, and it was a disaster. It was the biggest disaster you could possibly.
In the day.
it's it was so it was a massive deflation. Everything was like, I can't do this. Everything's inaccessible. I can't hold things. There's hot things, there's heavy things, there's sharp things, there's things in places I can't get to. I can't stand at how do I do this? And it was like, oh no, this is not working very well at all. And I was like, oh, this is terrible. And my wife said to me, look, do you think there's a way that you could unravel all of this and try doing it again, but in a completely different way? And I was like, cool. And when your brain's not working very well, that's not an easy thing to do. But over a number of weeks, I started gradually looking at all these barriers that were coming down, and they started way before you got in the kitchen. And I'll talk a bit more about these as we go. And there were physical barriers, mental barriers, and it could be as simple as I can't open this can. I can't open the can. I can't get it open. You've given me an onion. I can't chop that. I can't peel it. I can't chop it. What are you giving me this for? So there was lots of these layers that said, well, what all these things are stopping me from cooking, and each one it might not stop me completely, but it will start to sow the seeds of negativity in my head about this is not a good place for you. Get out. You don't want to be cooking. It's not good. And then I thought, wow, okay, I've started to unpick these things. And I got them all done. And the first time I made a complete dish was a bread and butter pudding. And my mum, rest her soul, was a really, really good cook. And she made the most amazing bread and butter pudding from scratch, the whole thing. And it was like, wow. I made my version of it. It wasn't quite the same. But when I made it and I served it, and I was just like, I've made that. But what really struck me was that my kids and my wife were like, look at that. And the joy that they felt because they knew that I'd tried and they knew that I'd given it a go. It didn't matter that it was a little bit burnt on the top. It's fine. But the fact was that I'd done it. And that moment of, wow, I've just done that. And yes, I did it completely differently to how I would have done it. But wow, what a feeling. It flooded me with a sense of sort of purpose and of happiness and of joyfulness that I'd lost completely for a long, long time. And I thought, wow, here we go. If I can do that, what else can we do? So Cookfulness was born, and I decided, well, let's write a cookbook, because why would you not? So I decided to write a cookbook because I couldn't find a cookbook that worked. I couldn't get one that sort of made sense. So I wrote my own, which is this one, Cookfulness, and it's a cookbook basically for people who just find it hard to cook. I'm not a chef. I'm only just a cook. But it's not about that. It's about how you can use cooking to be something that makes you happy, as opposed to something that makes you really angry, painful, sad, and upset. And so I wrote the cookbook. I self-published it, and it came out. And I thought that would be that. That'd be the end of that. I've done it. Well done, me. Hey. But people started to buy it, and this is a bit strange. I thought, well, it's got to be my family and my friends. They'll be buying it. That's about it. I thought no one else will. But then it started to go, and I started to get inquiries from people saying, do you do demonstrations? Do you do courses? And I was like, I haven't even thought about this. I don't, but why would I not? Okay, let's try it. So I started doing literally just before COVID hit. I started doing online cooking courses with various places, and it started off where I'd record them, we'd play them, and then we'd have a chat about it. And then it's developed from there, where I've now started doing these all over the place. So last week I was doing one for a charity in Canada and America. And then next week I'm doing something with Australia, which is fun because I've got to start at 5:30 in the morning. But hey, whatever. But it's all about bringing Cookfulness to life and about what it is that I'm doing. So that's all the horrible, boring bit. I'm sorry. That's all the bit where I'm going, yeah, whatever. Get on with it. They're saying, come on, make something. But this is a background as to why I do now what I do, because I've just found that so many people struggle with cooking for so many different reasons. I don't pretend to understand every single disability, every single condition. I can't. But what I do understand is that there's a common denominator with everyone, that there are the same issues that people have. It might be more sort of extreme with certain areas, but everyone seems to have the same problems. And what I'm trying to do is give you a set of, not skills, they're just a set of things that you've got that you might need to pull on, because no 2 days are the same. So what I can do today, I might not be able to do tomorrow. So what I'm going to try and give you is a set of sort of, let's call them skills, but they're just experiences that you can then draw on that says, today I need 5 of them, tomorrow I need 3. So there's 12 in total. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through them all and you'll be asleep by the end of it. I'm just going to talk a little bit about each one as we go through so you can see what it is I'm saying. And some of them are very simple, some of them are a little bit more in depth, but you'll see what they're all about as we get going. So let's make something, because that's the fun part of it. So one of the things I struggle with a lot is snacking. I snack a lot and I snack badly and I snack on things that I shouldn't snack on, because when you're feeling low or down or in pain or whatever it may be, you go for something that's going to give you a little flicker of, oh, that's nice. But what it does is it makes you want another one and another one, and then it gets harder and harder. So I, like, now I don't do it all the time, and I'll make my own little snacks and little things. And you go into a supermarket, and you can buy those little bags of like the protein power balls and things, like these wonderful things. You get like one in a packet, and it costs you £25. Those things, you think, gosh, they're amazing. You eat them, go, oh, I feel so great, and you think, what was the £25 for? It's terrible. But actually, you can make your own, and you can make things very simply that will keep. So what I try and do is make things that can be stopped and started. So you can start something, you can stop, step away, you can come back 2 hours later or even the next day and carry on. You can make things, you can freeze them, you can bring them back afterwards, but also you can change them so you don't get bored with eating the same thing over and over again. So what I'm going to show you now is a very, very simple, it's a coconut and cranberry and lime ball. We'll call it a ball, roughly a ball. But what the main substance of it is actually porridge. So you've got porridge oats in there. And what I like about this one is that you can make it gluten-free, you can make it whatever you like. It can be completely vegan, it can be whatever it is. And it's just a straight swap of whatever ingredient that you prefer to use. So I know that a lot of people who have chronic conditions and disability also have problems with allergies and eating various things as well. I'm celiac, so I can't do gluten or wheat. So what I try and make is things that you can instantly just swap for other things and you get the same dish. Now, what I will say is you don't need to worry about what I'm doing in terms of trying to write it down or remember anything. I'll send all the recipes over to Miriam afterwards, and then you can have them all ready for you. You can go and look whenever you want. And so just enjoy it. And if you want to ask any questions about it, do, but don't worry about having to write anything down. The recipes will all be there with full step instructions about how you do it, what you're going to need, etc. So let's go. Let's make these. So I'm going to show you one of my favorite little pieces of equipment, which is this mini blender. So often pieces of kitchen equipment are far too big. You can't lift them. They're really difficult. They're awkward and they're dangerous. This little thing is brilliant. It's something I use an awful lot because it's just enough. It's not massive. You think you have to make about, for a family of 600 with some of the size of the blenders you get, but this is a nice little one. And all it is in there is just one of these blades. And obviously you've got to be careful, make sure that if you need help, get help. Now, what I'm going to do to measure it is one of this. This is just like a kitchen cup. It's called a cup. But actually you can use a cup, because the whole point of this is that by using the same thing to measure, you know exactly what's going on. So if I use this cup or that cup, it doesn't matter because I'm going to be talking in cups as opposed to grams and milliliters and all that sort of thing where you have to measure it out and worry about it and think, oh gosh, how many have I done? This way, it's a lot easier because it's just all using the same thing, which is, for me, a lot better because I'll forget what it is I'm doing and I'll make it, and it'll all go horribly, horribly wrong. So I'm going to start with, and what I will say now is that if I'm going too fast, please say stop, slow down, shut up, be quiet, help. It's fine. I get very excited doing this. So please, if there's anything you want to say, which is just stop a minute and go back, please do. Don't think you're being rude. You're not. It's really helpful. I'd rather that than you worrying about things that you've missed, etc. So please do say if you want to ask. So I'm going to start with a cup of porridge oats, and these are just breakfast porridge, just normal breakfast porridge, and the cup's gone in. And the great thing about porridge, obviously, is that the oats are very good for slow release of energy. You'll feel full for a little bit longer, and they also bulk things out without lots of too many sweet things in there. So using porridge oats like this in its raw form, because this is not going to be cooked, this is going to be made literally here, is great because it just gives you that feeling of fullness. Now, obviously, you don't normally eat porridge without it being cooked. It's like chewing on sawdust. So don't worry, we're going to be putting other things in there as well. Now, one of the things we're going to add is coconut. So I've got desiccated coconut here, which you can get in pretty much everywhere. And it's just basically grated coconut. And I'm just going to put exactly the same amount in. And as you can see, I really don't be precise because it's all about the enjoyment of it and throwing it in and having a bit of fun with it. So that's gone in. And what happens straight away is you get the smell of coconut. It's a wonderful smell. And it's just like, oh, this is starting to smell like it could taste quite nice. And having that feeling of, oh, this is good. And I've only put 2 things in there, and already I feel like I'm cooking because I am cooking. Now, often you'll think that cooking is all about, oh, making this big dish, this dish. This is cooking. This is cooking by just putting 2 things on putting some butter on some toast, as far as I'm concerned, is cooking because it's difficult and it's hard. And therefore, if you can see everything as cooking, you'll start to feel a bit more positive about cooking because you're probably doing a lot of it already. But actually, if you start to think about, hey, I'm doing some cooking because I've got some cheese on toast, well, you are cooking. And that's exactly what you're doing. And I'm jumping about a little bit, but someone the other day asked me what was the biggest piece of advice I could give about cooking. And it's like, oh, crikey. And I think is to give yourself the time to cook. And what I then mean by that is that often you'll have things in your mind that you want to do in a day. And there could be 2 things, 1 thing, 3 things, but none of them will ever be cooking. Because what it will be is cooking will squish into the bits that you think you need to do. And therefore, cooking becomes a thing that you probably least likely want to do because you've got to cram it into the time that you've given yourself. If you make cooking one of those things that you're going to do in the day, all of a sudden it becomes something more, I'm going to give myself 2 hours this day to cook. And that, for me, is a massive achievement. That's a huge thing to celebrate. So from cooking being the thing you cram into to being something big and a big event and a success for you in the day, it changes how you perceive cooking. It makes it more interesting, more achievable. And when you do something, you're feeling like you're actually achieving the things that you wanted to do in the day. But don't squish it into the other stuff, because when you do squish it, that's when you start to not enjoy it at all. So anyway, I digress. Let's move on. Now, it wouldn't be a cranberry ball without cranberries. Cranberries are wonderful things, and they've got natural sweetness in them. And I'm just going to put just under a cup of cranberries in, and that'll go in. There we go. As you can see, I like to do things where you put it all into one place. And it's not so much washing up. It's a lot easier to do, and you're not worried about what else is going on. What you'll also notice is that I'm not in the kitchen. I'm actually sat at a table. And that's one of the things that I talk about a lot is in the books is about widening your kitchen. That doesn't mean putting an extension on your kitchen. It means where do you prepare food? You don't have to be in the kitchen. So by being here, I feel more relaxed. I'm sat down. I don't feel the pressure of being in a kitchen. Because for me, when you walk into a kitchen, you instantly feel that sort of cloud coming over you, going, oh, I've got to go fast. I've got to get this done. I've got to do that. But actually, if you step outside the kitchen and sit at your table, it might take you a bit longer, but actually, it's much more enjoyable to be here, get the music going, enjoy yourself, make it part of something that you can celebrate. So widening your kitchen is just, if you've got one of those those kitchen dinner trays with the thingy underneath where you put them on your lap, I use that sometimes to prepare things, maybe chop a carrot or something. It's much more relaxing for me to do it that way. I actually feel safer as well than trying to stand in the kitchen when I can't stand properly. So it's about thinking a bit more wider about where you do things and how you do things. So often just doing it in a different environment to the kitchen changes the way you feel about it. It certainly has for me anyway. This is taking quite a lot. I've only got 3 ingredients in there so far, but let's carry on. So next to go in is some maple syrup. Now, maple syrup is a wonderful thing. It's it brings the sweetness, but it's not full on sugar rush. It's not going to give you too much of the nasties, but it's good to have that because it acts as a binding. So I'm just going to put in 1.5 of maple syrup. Now, these little spoons I've got are great, and I'm not going to go into gadgety things, whatever, but these are great because you see they've got 2 things at both ends. So one of the things that really used to annoy me, and to the point of hurling things around the kitchen, so I put maple syrup in that now, and then I'd go and have to measure the sugar, and it would all be stuck to it, and it'd go, oh God, I don't know how much I've got in there now. I don't know what's doing. So having one end for dry, one end for wet, it's brilliant, and it's just a simple little thing that can make a big difference to what you're doing. So if you get the order and think, oh, I should have put the dry in first, it doesn't matter anymore because you've got these, and they're just handy little things. So the maple syrup's gone in. And then lastly is coconut oil. Now, coconut oil comes in you can get it in liquid form, but it does come in sort of this. It looks a bit like a candle, unfortunately, but it's actually just solidified and you just heat it up. If you can't get coconut oil, you could use melted butter, you could use anything, or you could just increase the amount of maple syrup you're using. It doesn't matter. I just like the extra bit of coconut because when it's melted, it just looks like, this going in, it just pours in like that, and it just acts as an extra bit of coconuttiness. Is that a word, coconuttiness? I think I've just made something up. The coconuttiness. If it isn't a word, it should be. And then last but by no means least, excuse me, is a lime. So this is where you get to the point where things get a little bit more tricky because these things are small and they're round and they make it very difficult for you to try and do things with them. So trying to zest a lime or a lemon can end up with bits of your knuckles everywhere and bits of things going all over the place, and it makes it very, very difficult. So like a standard zester, often people don't realize that this bit on the end is actually there for a reason. It's there to anchor it down. So you can actually put it on top of something and it will anchor or it will hook up over the edge. So it actually has its own little safety system in there already. It just hooks on and you can zest like that. Now, if you feel you can do this with both hands, then great. But otherwise, you can do things like these little palm zesters that you can get, which are brilliant. And literally, you just do it like you're stroking a cat. Don't stroke a cat with this, obviously, because that will hurt the cat. So they're actually just for zesting a little differently, and it all collects inside. So there's just little ways you can do this. So I'm just going to zest a whole lime. And just take your time with it. Don't think, sometimes you watch the chefs on TV and they're like, and you think you've got to go that fast. You don't. They get paid to do it. They've trained for years to do that. We haven't. Just take your time and enjoy it, and just enjoy the smells that start to come up with the lime and the zest, etc. Now, another thing that completely threw me for a long, long time was that when it said zest and juice of a lime, I would cut it, do the juice, and then realize I hadn't zested it. And trying to zest a lime that's been juiced, it's not easy. So always, if it says zest and juice, zest it first and then juice it. Again, it sounds like a stupid thing, but it can make such a difference to say, yeah, before you cut it, just zest it, and it's a lot easier. Now, if you're having a day where you think, actually, I'm feeling not too bad today, If you're doing like that, just zest another one and just keep it to the side and put it in a little bag and put it in the freezer. And that little bag of zest will sit in your freezer for as long as you want. And it will wait until you think, I really need some help with this zesting. You go, I put a little bit of zest in the freezer 6 months ago. Let's go and get that out. And if you start to add in little bags of things here and there, just every so often when you're feeling a little bit brighter, think, actually, I'm going to do one more and I'm just going to keep that. And actually, the zest is one. The juice, put it into the ice cube trays that you've got, put that into the freezer. And you've got either some juice that you can have, or it can go into a drink in the summer, and you've got an instant lime cube. So again, it's just little things to think, and I call it little extra cooking, where you do batch. Does anyone batch cook? I mean, I used to. I used to love batch cooking, and I used to go, oh, mad, let's make 8,000 spaghetti bologneses. And then you'd have your freezer. And I have this vision in now of these massive wok, these big sort of vats of chili going on the pot and Tupperware going off into the distance as you start to fill these things. And you think, yes, I've made 10,000 chilies. Way, that's amazing. And you think, oh, when am I going to eat 10,000 chilies? But so I can't really batch cook that well anymore because I find it quite difficult. So I'll just do a little extra cooking. And that could be zesting an extra lime, or it could be making one extra portion of bolognese. And then you take that extra portion, you bag it, and you put it in the freezer. And all you're doing is, again, building up a little stock of things that you've got for the days when, let's face it, we all have them, you just cannot cook. And they will happen, and they'll happen all the time. They happen to me. And what I do then is I'll go in the freezer and think, oh, here's the bolognese that I made in October. I'll get that out. Now, the important thing of that is that when you get that out, you don't think, oh, I'm just heating up a frozen bolognese. You think you're cooking because you are, because you get that out, you heat it up, you made it. The fact that you made it 3 months ago is completely irrelevant. You still made it. So when you heat that up and you maybe put a little bit of pasta with it, you celebrate the heck out of that like you made it the same day because you still made it. And even more so, you should celebrate it even more because you thought that one day I'm going to need this because I won't be able to cook. So actually, it's a double celebration because you've thought ahead to when you're not, when you can't cook. And I call it planning for the unplanned. So it's when you know you're going to need something, but you don't know when it will be. So if you have that little extra thing and you can get it out and heat it up, you're still cooked. Isn't that amazing? You cooked on a day when you can't cook. That's brilliant. Now, I'm just going to digressing a bit. But one of the things I find with my freezer, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, there's things in there you don't know what they are. They've been in there a long time, and they've sort of changed color and gone a bit yellowy colored, and you think, what the heck is that? And you think, well, I'll remember it. I'll know. I'll open it, and they all look the same. This is all the same stuff. It could be anything in there, and you don't know what it is. You think, and you start to play the Russian roulette of what am I heating up? I don't know what this is. It could be something for the dog. I don't know. So you start to worry. So what I do now, on the back of my cupboard door, just on the inside of the kitchen cupboard, I've just got a little piece of paper, and I write down like freezer tray 1, freezer tray 2, just what I put in. And it's not the normal things like your frozen chips and your peas and all that stuff. It's just things that you've added. So I might have in there bolognese, 3 portions, tray 1, because I'll guarantee you by tomorrow, I can't remember what is where. I will have no idea. If my wife said to me, what's in the freezer? Not a clue. So if you go and open the door and look and it says, you've got 3 portions of bolognese there and you're having a shocker of a day, it's like, hey, I can go and get it, and you know where they are. So it takes away that whole sort of feeling. It's just about giving yourself a little helping hand for when you're really going to need it. That's got nothing to do with this, but I just thought I'd explain it as we go. So let's finish this off. Let's presume it's all zested in. And then I'm just going to find my knife. There it is. And just got my little right angle knife because I struggle with holding knives, and this is a really useful knife. It's a really great one. They're available all over the place, but they're really, really handy because they do the work for you. So much safer. So I'm just going to chop that line in half. I'm just going to squeeze them in. Sometimes limes, lemons, oranges, trying to get the juice out of it, it's trying to get blood out of a stone. It's like there's nothing coming out of it. So if you feel that is the case, if you put the lime or a lemon into the microwave for 20 seconds, when you then do it, all the juice will come out. It's amazing. It just warms it up and it brings all the juice out. So if ever you're having trouble with getting juice out of anything, just give it a little ping in the microwave, and all of a sudden it's like magic. The floodgates open and things start coming out. So again, it's just little things to help you rather than trying to squeeze this thing and nothing's coming out the other end. That is it. That's all there is in there. I'm just going to give this a quick pulse. I'm not going to give it a massive whiz. So excuse the noise for a second. Now what's happened is that it's gone into, I'm just going to tip this into the bowl so you can see it and move this out of the way. I'm just going to take this off. I'll tip it in the bowl and get rid of this. We'll just get rid of this little thing. And now we've got what looks a little bit like breadcrumbs, but they're actually quite sticky breadcrumbs. And the only liquid in there is the lime juice, the maple syrup, and the coconut oil. That's all there is. The rest of it's all dry. But actually what happens is as soon as you grab it and squeeze it, it solidifies and it turns into this lovely stuff. So all we do now is you take whatever size you like and you squeeze them together. And you can create, these can be round, they can be whatever, it doesn't matter. They're homemade, you can make them whatever shape you like. In fact, sometimes it's better to have it. And then you end up with these little balls of magic. And all that you can do then to make them even more special, if you want to, if you've got a little bit of the desiccated coconut left over, because these are still quite sticky, just give them a roll in it, and you end up with this lovely little frosted things. You can put these then into the fridge. They'll stay in the fridge for ages. If you've got them in just covered in cling film on a plate, they'll last for a week. But what you can do is once these are made up, you can freeze them. So you can have half in the fridge, half in the freezer, and then you've got some for, and they defrost in literally an hour. They're completely defrosted. And you just eat them straight away. And you can have that as a great little snack. So whenever you're feeling a bit like, oh, I'm really hungry, these have got a nice bit of sweetness, but they've also got really good slow release energy in them. And the best thing is they taste nice. It's not like chewing cardboard. It's actually really tasty. So these things, the smell is amazing. And you just imagine there's only a few things in there. Now, I'm sure I'm not alone. When I find something I like, I cook it a lot. And then you get like, oh God, not again. And the family are going, oh, please don't do that one again. We're getting bored with it. So it's like, well, what can you do with this to make it a bit more interesting? So what you could do is, if you've made this up, you could split it into different bowls and make lots of different flavors with it just by adding one more thing. So, for instance, crystallized stem ginger, which you can get in most supermarkets, and it's like nuclear stuff. It lasts for years. And you can just put that in, and you get a lovely little bit of heat from that in one. You could put, what else could you do? Some little dark chocolate drops could go in one. That would be quite nice. You could have, let's go over here. So I've got a basil plant here. Basil is wonderful with fruit and coconut. So if you've got some fresh basil and it smells amazing, literally just tear it up a bit and put it in. And it completely changes the flavor. And you could do, what else have we got here? Some mint. So I've got some mint that could go in. And all of a sudden it starts to change and become a completely different tasting thing. So it's one of these things you don't have to do exactly what it is. You can just change it to what you like. Because I don't know what you like. I know what I like, but the chances of you liking what I like exactly are probably quite slim. So make it yours. Take this as a base because it works, but then start to play around. Instead of cranberries, maybe use some mixed peel or a different type of dried fruit. Some dried apricots or something would be delicious, and just make it a little bit different. And it means that you feel like you're eating something different, even though the base of it is largely the same. So what I try to do with all the dishes that I make is make them completely flexible, changeable, updatable, and a bit more likable for long term. So this is a lovely little thing to make as a power ball, whatever you want to call it. But this also is a great crumble topping. So if you're making like a rhubarb crumble or an apple crumble or whatever, if you've got a bit of this left over in the freezer, put that on top, put it in the oven, Fantastic. It's a lovely, because you think about crumble, it's largely made up with porridge and all sort of different things. It's here. So you can use that as a crumble topping. You could use it as a sprinkling on top of yogurt for a breakfast. So it doesn't have to be just one thing. It can be lots of different things. And that's what I love about cooking, is that you can change it into lots of different things if you give yourself the chance to think that way. So that one thing could be a lunch, a dinner, a tea, anything. It could be snacks, could be whatever you want it to be, as long as you think about, well, where could this go? And try it. One of the things I used to get, I still do a little bit, is when things don't go quite right and I don't like it, and I've made something and it doesn't taste very nice. It's going to happen. It doesn't matter. It's fine. The fact is that you've probably made 9 things that do taste nice and one that doesn't. So don't let that one destroy the 9. Just let that one go. It's experience. It's just something that's gone wrong. What's the worst thing that's happened? It didn't taste very nice. Don't make it again. That's the thing. I do that stupid thing where I don't like something and I'll make it again. You think, what are you doing that for? That's a ridiculous thing to do, but you do. So just find the things you like. And if 3 of you on here like this and the others don't, then the 3 of you have got something, and the others, what's the worst thing that's happened? Nothing really. So just try these things and give it a go. We only use one dish, one bowl, and then take your time and do it. And that's made in real time. Just do it whatever you like. But I promise you, the smells that going around this kitchen now are amazing just from that. And it's not been cooked. It's just something that smells amazing. So do you
Ian,
think anyone would have?
that is
Sorry, Ian.
brilliant, Ian. No, I'm just you're just making my mouth water already. Thank you so much. um, I've
Well,
just noticed, Dean, you've got your hand up. Did you want to ask Ian something?
oh, sorry.
Yes, I did. Thank you. Yeah, Ian, I'm just watching you and listening to you, and you say things like, "Well, this doesn't work. Do it again." And before, when you were talking about the batch cooking, and you used to do it, and you don't. Do you think we kind of are a bit hard on ourselves for not, because I feel that when I see someone batch cooking, I mean, there's someone in the CP community who I know that's quite an active sort of like lifestyle in terms of work and so forth, and he batch cooks, him and his partner batch cook for like a week. I just envy every time I see that, because I
Yeah,
just think, oh, wish I was that motivated to do it. So do you think we were a bit too hard on ourselves?
yeah, totally. And really, it's a lot of things about, again, it's about what other people are doing as opposed to yourself. But you do, because you think that's, well, why, how can they do that, and why am I not able to do that? What's the, and you start to beat yourself up about things. So I mentioned this before people came on, but in the cookbook I've got no pictures, so there's no pictures of the finished dishes,
Yeah.
because I don't want people to feel they have to achieve something for it to be right. So you look at these wonderful cookbooks and you open it up and think, that's amazing, but I've got no chance of making that. Or when you make it and it looks nothing like it, you feel totally deflated. And again, you're comparing yourself to someone else. Now, the person who did that is a chef. Is someone who actually does this day in, day out. And let's be honest, that picture's not real. The food there, it's got hairspray on it, it's got all sorts of stuff on it to make it shiny and lovely, but actually you don't think like that. So I totally agree with you. You do start to think, well, why can I not do this anymore? What is this bit? And rather than focusing on the bit that you can do and the bit that you can do really successfully, because I guarantee you that most of the people who are batch cooking are doing it because they think they should do it as opposed to enjoying it. And if you're cooking to enjoy it, it's a very different thing. So if you can make this one thing in a day, just that's amazing, because you've created this. It doesn't matter about whether you can batch cook, whether you can juggle plates, whether you can do all sorts of stuff. It's about what you've just done. And I found it very, very difficult to change my perception of what I was capable of and not. I found it very difficult to understand, why am I not able to do this anymore? But once I realized that actually it's a completely different world I'm living in, I need to think now about remembering that bread and butter pudding I made and the kids' faces and my wife's face and my face for making it. That's what's important, is the fact
Yeah.
that you've made something and enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
one of my 12 steps is celebrate everything. And I mean celebrate everything. So for me, being here with you tonight is so, so good for me. It's massive. Like, I feel amazing doing this. And I'm going to celebrate the heck out of it, because it's
Yeah.
like, this is brilliant. To be able to join you and do this is great. So if you're able to do anything, whatever it is, celebrate it as massively, the big things to the small things, because then you're not comparing yourself to others, you're just comparing yourself to yourself. And if you can celebrate opening a tangerine the same as you would making a tagine, then it becomes a bit more like I'm treating me as me, and I'm giving myself the opportunity to praise myself, rather
Yeah.
than to sort of castigate myself for not being able to do stuff. Does that sort
Yeah,
of a
that's
long-winded
brilliant.
answer?
That's a brilliant answer, that, Ian. Thank you very much. And
I,
it makes me feel a lot better. So thank you.
can I ask a question, Ian? Just
Yeah.
can I have a look at your knife? I know that you're not going to go
Yeah.
into, but that's something that I just. So does
Yeah.
that mean that you're more stable with it?
Yeah, and I'll tell you what happened. I struggled for a long time to find a knife that I could cope with, particularly when you've got with me with a tremor, when you're knives, they're sharp and they're dangerous, and they're going to make things hurt if it goes wrong. Things can slip, things can move all over the place. So what I found with this is it's made specifically for people with difficulty with their hands, and just being able, they have two. There's this one, which is like a multi-purpose knife, and then there's a longer one, which is for bread. And these are the only two knives I now use. I don't use any other knives, because it's great. It's got a slight amber curve on it, and so you can do a little bit of rocking. You don't have to push that way. You just like that, and the ergonomics of it are great. It just fits straight into your palm. And again, it's not an expensive thing, and it's not something that you have to go seeking off to out of Mongolia's kitchen shop. It's actually on Amazon. I got these from a company called Active Hands, who are a British company. They're brilliant. But I just love them because they're really great. And what's nice is they actually look nice. They actually look quite, ooh, and so many people come in and they go, "Oh, I like your knife." It's like, yeah, it's good, isn't it? And it's not about, oh, that's a special knife. It's about, that's a nice knife. And so again, it just makes you feel a bit more like, oh, look at me.
Yeah, because I tell you that the thing that puts me off is when I see that there's too much chopping to do,
Yeah,
because I think about how tired that's going to make me and how long it's going
yeah,
to take me. And I do a lot of buying frozen. I know it's more costly, but particularly
ah,
things like onions, I buy them already cut up and put them in the freezer, or get the frozen ones,
yeah.
just because, and
That's
all of that kind of base of things.
it's
If that's
brilliant.
done, then I'll cook. But if it's not
Yeah,
done, then I won't.
and and it's funny, you sort of you're speaking like you're a little bit embarrassed about using frozen. And actually, one of the things on my 12 is smart ingredients. So it's things that are going to help you cook. And then exactly what you've just said, trying to chop stuff is really hard, and it's dangerous, and it's difficult, and it makes the whole process, you're starting off badly because you're not enjoying it, and you're worried and you're scared. So why would you do that? So exactly that. I have in my freezer bags of ready chopped onion, white onion, red onion. It's already chopped for you, and you get it out and you use it. And it is a bit more expensive, but the great thing is that you only use what you need, and that's really important. So you're not actually, probably you're not wasting anything, because when you chop in a whole onion, you're hacking away at it. There's bits flying everywhere. It actually, so I use frozen everything. I really do, because it's brilliant. I do a lot of work with Veg Power, who is a national charity helping with people to eat more vegetables. And it's a massive thing is about the whole frozen side, because they're frozen when they're picked. They're actually fresher than the fresh by the time you get it from the supermarket, because they've been quick frozen. Um, the old days of trying to boil a bit of frozen broccoli and it ends up like soup. they're not quite the same anymore. You know, it's good quality, and it's just about how you use it. And a classic example is a stir fry. Now, you asked me to prepare a stir fry without using frozen. I'd be here till Sunday trying to prepare the thing, because there's so much in them. You know, everything has to be chopped. So if you can I get a bag of, you know, the stir fry mix, the frozen stir fry mix. Use that, and what's happened is that all of a sudden I've jumped past all those barriers that I had. I've now got, what can I do now to use my energy? Well, why don't I do a little sauce or something, or rather than all that, I can't do this, I'm not going to make it. So again, use frozen. Absolutely, it's brilliant. And not just use it, be really proud to use it, because the fact is that if you didn't use it, you couldn't make the dish. So be really, really proud to say, actually, I've got stuff in my freezer that's going to help me, because otherwise I couldn't do it. So again, it's just saying that don't be embarrassed about using frozen. Use it and sing about it and say, this is brilliant, because I can cook things I couldn't before. So sorry, Mandy, you've got your hand up.
Just find out how to unmute myself. Just a few things. So I find you really interesting. I've come at a lot of these talks and it's really interesting to me. But one thing was you put cranberries in there, and I really don't like cranberries. So have you got an alternative?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, isn't it, that probably the thing you'll remember about that dish is cranberries, because it's like, I don't like cranberries. And then you'll think, well, I'm not going to remember any of the other dish because I don't like it. So don't use cranberries, use anything else. So again, use your little measuring thing. And if you prefer dried apricots or dried cherries or raisins or whatever, anything, it doesn't matter. Whatever you like, put it in.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can get, you can get the bags of like mixed fruits or mixed peels or various things, or whatever. Just use what you like. And if you don't have a nut allergy, you could put some little bits of chopped nuts in there, whatever you like, because you're going to whiz it, it doesn't matter. So use what you like. So when you see a recipe like this one, when you see cranberries, just see fruit, and then you use whatever you like instead of what's there, and then just take it out and change it for whatever you prefer.
Yeah, thank you. And your cookbook, how do I get a hold of that cookbook?
So now it's on Amazon, but Amazon have been a little bit cheeky because they've just doubled the price of it coming up to Christmas, which I'm really annoyed about. So you can get it. It is on Amazon if you look for Cookfulness, but they've got it at like £19, which is a ridiculous amount of money for a cookbook. So if you go to Goodreads, and I'll send this to Miriam and Emma. So it's Goodreads is an online bookstore. They've got it, and also Waterstones Online have got it as well. So they've got it, and so I'll send all the things through, but you can get it through there, and it comes in either. You can get it in hard copy form, or it actually comes as an ebook as well, which is quite funny. So you can actually have someone reading it out to you. It's not me, but there is someone reading it, and that's a lot cheaper as well.
That's really good. But one wee quick last question: Do you bake? Do you bake?
Yeah. I do, and I love it. And we were talking about this, Erin and I, earlier about I bake a lot with my youngest daughter, and it just becomes a place where we can just have fun and just talk, because for a long time we didn't have that communication because I found it very difficult. And I just find now that cooking is an environment where we can, and baking particularly is wonderful because of the smells and the making and things. And it could be just a packet mix. It doesn't matter. You don't have to make things from scratch. We're not MasterChef the professionals. You get a packet mix and make it up. Myself and my daughter had a profiterole mix where you just mixed it all together. I mean, they looked terrible. They looked like the lunar landing. It was just stuff everywhere. There were massive things all over the place. But that didn't matter. It was the fact that we did it. And baking's a wonderful thing. And it's also probably the one that can really trip you up, because things very rarely come out looking like you think they should. The fine line between it being cooked and not cooked. So baking is wonderful, and it really is great. And everything is baking. As I say, putting a mix together and just whizzing it up and putting it in, that's cooking. That's still baking. It's still doing it. And it's a great thing because again, you've got things that are there, and it fills the house with smells, wonderful smell. It's great, isn't it? And that's wonderful.
Because my daughter does a lot of baking, and like that, because my hands aren't good and things, I feel that I can't like get too involved. That after talking to you, maybe just putting them in the cases or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
still I never
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, it's all about just what can I do and how could I do it, and not worrying about the bits you can't. Because if you've got your daughter there, she becomes your sous chef. Absolutely, she'll be the one who says, "Actually, can you just do that for me?" It's great. Why not? You know, just share things out, and you do things together, and you just find ways of things you can do. And if you can't, that's fine. You know, you get someone else to help you do it. And but just by being involved and talking together, it's wonderful. So try, you know, if you look at things, and I'll say this now, but before we get to the very end, I've got a website which I'll send the details through, and on there there's a contact me, and it's an email that literally comes straight to me, so it doesn't go off anywhere. It comes to me. If you've got any problems or issues or questions that you thought you wish you'd raised, either send them to me or whatever, or just send them to me and I'll try and answer them. It could be 6 months' time. You're thinking, I've just tried this and I couldn't do it. Just send me a little message and I'll try and help you and say, well, actually, have you tried this? So don't think today is it. You know, we're friends for life now. That's it. You've got me, I'm a friend. So you know, if you want to ask anything, just find a way to ask, and I'll always try and help.
Thank you very much. It's been lovely talking to you.
Right, so mince pies. I'm going to show you how to make mince pies. This is genius. These are the best mince pies you'll ever eat, I promise you. But they're also the easiest mince pies you'll ever make. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about Christmas, because we're leading into Christmas with mince pies. Now, to make these mince pies, I shall be using a cup and a glass. And you're thinking, he's gone, he's lost the plot, he's been up too long, it's all gone a bit wrong. But these are honestly what I'm going to use. And all I've got is some ready rolled puff pastry. Now, normally mince pies are in sort of more short crust pastries, they're a bit thinner, but actually I quite like these because they're almost like a little tart, as well as so they look a little bit more special. Now, if you want to try and make puff pastry, good luck to you. It's the most painful and long thing. Buy these, they're a lot easier. They come in a ready roll and they're great. So you can get gluten-free, you can get vegan versions, you can get every version of these now in pretty much all supermarkets. So they come in a roll, and when you open them out, if I can find the end, so they sort of come in a roll like that. Now, the best thing about this is that the paper that they come on, don't throw that out. That's brilliant. And that actually is grease-proof paper that you need. So if you're making like a little tart or these, use the paper that's behind them to line your tin, because that means it's not going to stick to anything. So this paper cooks brilliantly. It's great for putting anything on. So even if you don't use it now, keep it, because it's great paper to have to just stick, you know, underneath the pizza or whatever it might be. That paper is fabulous stuff. So never ever throw that out. Now I'm going to show you slightly different versions of mince pie. Hope you can see this right. Now, the mince pie filling comes from a jar of mincemeat, and you can get these all over the place in all supermarkets, and they all come in lots of different flavors. So find one that you like as a base. This one is rich and decadent ruby port mincemeat. Sounds amazing, but it's mincemeat and smells fabulous. There's only 2 ingredients in this: the pastry and the mincemeat, and that's it. That's all we're going to do. The art of these is making them look a little bit special and a little bit fun. So I'm going to show you first a square version. And I'm just going to take this knife and I'm going to cut out a piece. So I've just cut that out. That's it. So I've just cut a little square out. Now, you probably make it a little bit bigger because we want to put it's going to be a sort of an open mince pie, basically. Now, if you wanted to, you could literally just put a dollop of mincemeat in the middle of that and put it in the oven, and you've got a wonderful puff pastry mince pie that you've made. Now, yes, you could buy these, but isn't it wonderful to have the ones you've made yourself And literally all you've done is taken some mincemeat and put it on that and shoved it in the oven. Now, if you want to make it a little bit more fun, and again, it's just about how you can use a knife. And you don't need a sharp knife for this. You can use any knife. And all I'm going to do, and I'll show you once I've done this, is put a little bit out. It's not, when you've got a tremor, it's quite fun trying to do this because it's like, hey, they're going everywhere. So all I've done is cut a little bit out there, like a little bit of the inside corner, and a little bit of that inside corner. So it sort of hangs, it looks a bit like that. And what I'm going to do is take a dollop of this lovely mincemeat and put it in the middle. As I say, that would look lovely. But all I'm going to do is fold the corners over. I'm going to try and show you this if I can get it to stand up. How am I going to do this? Put it on there. All I've done is where those folds that I've taken, and they just look like that. So all those little, so I literally just cut out a little bit of the corner, a little bit of the corner, and then you just fold it over the top. And all of a sudden it's become a pretty little pie, just like that. And now you can take a little bit of milk, and if you've got a pastry brush, brilliant, but you don't need one, just use your finger. So you just put a little bit on all the bits of pastry that are there, and that'll just help brown it up a little bit. That goes into the oven, and you've got a fabulous mince pie. You can then start to change it up a little bit if you want to. So you could sprinkle on a little bit of the desiccated coconut, a little bit of ground almonds, maybe a bit of cinnamon to make it really Christmassy. And all of a sudden it starts to take on a whole life of itself. If you want to, then, if you take this jar and think, right, well, what do I like? So you mentioned, I don't like cranberries. Well, there might be a taste here you think, actually, I'd rather have this in it. So if you take this and put it in a bowl and then say, well, what do I like? I like orange zest. I like this. Put it in and mix it up and make your own version of it and add to whatever you like into it. It could be some nuts. It could be some whatever. Put it in. And if you like the taste of it, use it. So you don't have to use just the jar, but you can if you want to. And that's the whole beauty of these things. So that's the square version, which has turned into a little lattice. Now I'm going to show you the round one, which is using this and this, as I said before. So trying to cut a circle out of pastry is like trying to circumnavigate the globe in a day. It's not easy, and especially when your hands aren't working very well. So all you do is take a cup and push it onto the top of the pastry and push it down. And then you've got a perfect little circle like that. Now that is your base. And then you take your smaller glass, which I've now lost, there it is. And you go, right, I'm going to have this one now. And then you've got a smaller version. You've got a big one and a little one. And you could do that as many times as you like. Now, all you need to do then is if you've got this, like like the fairy cake tray or a muffin tray, etc., so something like this with the holes in. Now, remember to use the paper. So you literally just put it in. If you're not using the paper, just give it a little spray with some oil and it'll help it not stick. But you literally just put it in and just ease it in. And then now you're going to end up with something that looks a bit more like a mince pie than you think it was. You put in some of your mix. And again, you'll be surprised how little of the mix you need, because actually, otherwise they're going to be so full. And then you just put your little bit on top. And there you've got your own little mince pie made, like that. Now, again, you just brush it with some milk, put a little bit of sugar on it if you like. That and these, you've got two different types of mince pies just made just like that. Now, people don't need to know that actually they're all exactly the same. They'll taste exactly the same because you know they're exactly the same. But I guarantee you, people will think they don't taste the same because they look different. And people will start to think, wow, these are amazing. And think, oh, I like these ones more than those ones. And you're thinking, hang on, they're both the same. But it doesn't matter, because this is what happens when people see shapes differently. They start to think that they're completely different. And it's funny how that happens, but it does. So these, you might not make these all the time, but you can imagine what you do if you decided, actually, I'm fed up with mince pies. Let me try an apple pie. And you can buy the little jars of apple puree. Use that. Put maybe some cinnamon and some raisins in, and you've got completely different types of pies. You can start putting all sorts in these things once you've done them. And because it's puff pastry, you can put savoury things in there as well. You can put whatever you like in them, and you get these little pies. So again, these things you look at. I'm never going to be able to make a mince pie. Well, I can do that, and I guarantee you probably could make it too. And it's just a bit of take your time, enjoy it. And do you know what? That one, it's got bits hanging off the side there. It looks a bit gnarly, but that's the point. We don't want it to look like it's come from the shop. We want it to look like we've made it, because that's the joy of it. And this comes out, they're all going to look a bit different. There'll probably be bits bubbling all over the place. But that's the great thing about cooking, is it's not about having them all pristine and looking like each other. Whatever you make is right, and that's the whole point of whatever you make, that's what it should be. So even if you made them 2 weeks ago and they look completely different, that's what they're supposed to look like. And if you keep telling yourself that's what they're supposed to look like, then you'll be more happy with what you've got. So anyone think you could make those little pies? Yeah, nice and easy. And again, if you start to think, what else could I sprinkle on it? I love, and I'm probably going to split the room here, but I love using little bits of chili and sweet things. So yeah, I know. But actually, if you take a few flakes of chili, not a lot, because you don't want mince pies that are going to have steam coming out your ears. That's not what we want. But just a little bit, and you start to get this little bit of heat. You think, where's that coming from? But you'll know if you put too much in, because people will go red and start sweating. You don't want that. You don't want that to happen. But again, this is just a piece of bought shop puff pastry with a jar of mincemeat. That's it. But you can start to change them and make your own pies. And if you want to go big, you can go big. You can go small. You can do whatever size you like. When I send the recipes through, you'll see the times that it takes. But what I would say is just when you're getting the packet out, just look how long it normally takes to cook them, and then you'll know how long to do them. And every oven's a little bit different as well. So just keep an eye on them, but you'll know when they're done. And I guarantee you, once these come out of the oven, they will not last very long, because people will just eat them all and they'll be gone. And you'll have to make more. But that's a good thing. That's a great thing. So enjoy it and just have fun and play with it, and do things that you wouldn't normally do, and just try it. So that is a 2-ingredient mince pie. And that's cooking. Sorry, Miri, did you have a question, or were you? No. So that is a couple of dishes, but I said at the beginning we'd talk a little bit. We've got about 15 minutes to go. I thought we'd just talk a little bit about Christmas cooking, because it can be awful. It's like it can take over your whole day, and it can take over not just the day, but the day before and the day after, because you're so exhausted after doing it, and you're not enjoying the bit that you should be doing, which is having fun with, on Christmas. And you think, oh God, I'm going to be in the kitchen all day. So there are things that I do that hopefully I can share with you that will give you a little bit of a head start that will help you. And the biggest thing is to just start with a little plan. Just write down a few things. What am I making? And if you think that, start with a Sunday roast and then go a little bit more. Don't start with you've got to chuck everything at it, because for some reason you think Christmas has got to have every living and non-living thing on that table, and it doesn't. It really doesn't. So what extras could you add? Maybe some stuffing, maybe some pigs in blankets or a vegan version. But don't go nuts, because that'll end up with all sorts of things going on and you'll lose track of time. So just do the things that you're comfortable with, and then maybe a couple more, and that's it. Don't go completely mad. Just try and do what you can do, but in a good way. And start from the longest time, which is normally going to be your turkey or your chicken or whatever. How long is that going to take? Because so many times, and I've done it in the past, you get the turkey out, it's still defrosting. You think, oh God, how long am I going to get this? And then you finally get it in, and it won't be cooked till New Year's Day. You think, oh no, this has all gone horribly wrong. So start with the longest thing and work backwards from there, so that you're going to give yourself a little heads up that says, right, if I want to get this out at 3 o'clock, I need to have that turkey in the oven at whenever. And you just put these little markers down that says, right, at 2 o'clock, I know I've got to do this bit. And then in between that, you can step away and you can just stop. Now, there are little things that also you can do to help you. One of the things that I've found that I struggle a lot with is hot pans of boiling water. because they're heavy and they're dangerous, and they can often end up with overcooked vegetables or whatever. So I try not to use that now. For vegetables, I use a steamer, and the steamer is fantastic. And you can obviously get these ones with different layers, and you can do literally a whole meal in one steamer. And the great thing about steamers is they come with a timer, and that's brilliant, because how many times I've forgotten what went in when. I don't know what time I put that on. I don't know when it's going to be ready. Oh, panic. So with a steamer, you just got a timer on it, and it tells you when they're ready because it pings. It's brilliant. So those sort of things can help you a lot. Now, if you haven't got a steamer, don't worry. Just make sure that you've given yourself time to do stuff, because when you start to panic, that's when things can get dangerous. That's when you can hurt yourself, burn yourself, or get yourself, your mind in a bad way. So make sure you give yourself the time to do it. And the second thing I do, and we were talking, I can't remember what we were talking about, but a lot of the time is that I stop cooking before I start sometimes. So I'll be so panicked about everything being right that I'll start off badly. I'll start off on the wrong foot. So I now make myself daft, but actually just to take a few deep breaths and go, right, okay, I can do this. And then I will try and take away all these negative thoughts that are in my head. So I will often have I'll catastrophize everything. I'm a master catastrophizer. I will make everything go wrong before it's gone wrong. And I'm really good at it. And if there was an Olympic catastrophizing event, I'd probably win it. But we're very good at it. And that means that, like, you're going in again on the back foot. So I try and have some sort of picture that I bring up in my head that's going to make me feel happy. And the one I use is basically our dining table. So where my wife and my two children will be sat eating. And for many years, my chair was empty. And now I see me in that chair. And when I look at that in my mind now, and I see 4 people around the table just enjoying things, I immediately get a sense of, yeah, I'm ready, because I'm feeling positive and I'm feeling like I can do this. And it could be anything. It could be a piece of music that you love that's going to put you in a great sense of, yes, play it. Play that music that's going to make you feel happier, because then you'll go in feeling a bit more happy too. Often music's wonderful. Music's so emotive, but it also can be very negative as well. So there can be memories attached to music that you really don't want. The breakup song, don't play that one when you're starting cooking. You're likely to hurt yourself. So I have a playlist, the Cookfulness playlist, where I just start adding loads of music to this thing, and I'll just keep pumping music into it that I really like. And it could be an event. So after this, I'm going to put the radio on, and the first song I hear, I'm going to associate now with today, what's just happened. And that music's going to go on my playlist, because I'll know that that's, whenever I hear it, I'm going to think of this. And that's great. That's a happy thing. As long as it's not Agadoo or Orville, I'll be happy. But it's just about, again, giving yourself little triggers that are going to unlock the brain's negativity to give you a little bit more positivity. So just give yourself a chance to cook. Give yourself the time, give yourself the sense of feeling, and give yourself a break as well. It comes back to the questions we had earlier. You're not a Michelin-starred chef. We're home cooks. We're going to make things go wrong. But that's not what the day is about. The day is about just enjoying it. So don't overstretch yourself. Give yourself a chance. And if you're doing something new, don't try it for the first time on Christmas Day, because it's going to be like, oh no. So if you're going to do something new, give yourself a practice, maybe a week before, just to see if you're happy making it. And it's just little things like that that can make a big difference to enjoying the day. So I don't know, has anyone got any sort of particular worries about Christmas or cooking, or anything that they'd like to ask, or anything? Or about anything? Could be about anything. Because we've got about 10 minutes to go. So
I'm lucky my mum's doing it for me, so I don't have to. I've nothing to worry about.
That's genius.
And my mum absolutely loves doing Christmas dinner, because often, she's 75 now, so we've said the last few years, anything we can do to help? And she said, no, I enjoy doing it. No, I enjoy doing it. And it comes back to what you said. That comes back with what you said, Ian. You know, about making it pleasurable. You know, and yeah, it's really good.
That's great. It's funny that I do all of this cooking. My wife hates cooking. She absolutely hates it. So it's I'm trying my best to get her to want to do it, but she just doesn't like it. And there are lots of people who don't like it, and that becomes very difficult. But if you can find a little thing, maybe one thing that you could do, it's better than nothing. Yes, Miriam.
Can I ask you about roast potatoes?
Yes.
Because that's kind of a big thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just interested in your take on roast potatoes.
So there are many ways to do roast potatoes. There's the wonderful parboil them, shake them in a colander, cover them in flour, season them and wrap them in gorilla juice and all this sort of nonsense. It's like, yeah, if you can, marvelous, but I can't. So I actually do two different types of roast potatoes that I make, and normally they work great. So I literally just peel the potatoes, chop them into sort of halves, and put them raw onto a baking tray with a bit of olive oil and a sprinkle of salt. Put them in the oven for 40 minutes, and you've got perfect roast potatoes. Now, they're not all crispy and fluffy bits everywhere, but they're perfectly crispy. They've got a great foot. And all you've done is peeled them, put them on a tray, and stick them in the oven. And that's my stock version of a roast potato. I've just put something on my socials today about a different way of doing roast potatoes, and it's using new potatoes rather than the traditional potatoes you use. So new potatoes, all I did, I will steam them or boil them, and they could be potatoes that I used yesterday, they're leftovers. So they're in their skins, they're little ones. You put them onto a tray, you get a bottom of a glass, and you just give them a squash, and you just give them a little crush, and they go crush out a little bit. And then you sprinkle a little bit of olive oil, a bit of salt, maybe a bit of rosemary. And because they're already cooked, they take about 15 minutes to crisp up in the oven. And those potatoes were cooked yesterday. So if for Christmas, you could have already boiled those new potatoes. Come to Christmas Day, you crush them, 15 minutes, you've got wonderful crispy potatoes.
I wondered how they made those. I've seen those before. Thank you for telling me the secret.
Just give them a squash.
It's genius, that is, because they look fantastic.
Yeah, and they taste amazing, and they look like, wow, they must have taken you ages to crush these. Well, actually, no, I just squashed them with a cup. So it's like, but that's great.
Ian, can I tell you kind of a funny story about that? Is, you know how you talk about potatoes that look all crispy and look all nice. So because it's what my mum always did, I always try to parboil the potatoes. And like you, I find hot pans difficult. So that often there's somebody in the kitchen that will do that. But I was trying from the colander to put them on the tray to, and obviously they were parboiled and probably a bit too much because it took me ages to do it. And then I threw them in a not very pretty way onto the tray. But because and I thought, oh, I've totally mucked this up now. But because they'd all got a bit battered, when I put them in the oven to roast, everyone said, wow, these are really great potatoes because they're really crispy, because they've got they looked fluffy, but all it was I kind of had an accident of trying to get the potatoes from the colander into the tray. I guess it's kind of on the theme that you're talking about. That's just what it reminded me of, that actually it doesn't have to be pretty. It turned out quite well.
Oh, absolutely. And I actually learned a little trick from a friend of mine, Vanessa D'Souza. She's called the Autistic Chef. She's brilliant. And she showed me this little trick where if you get a load of new potatoes and they're cooked and you stick them on, you know the little trays you get for if you're sort of from the oven and they've got like the grills across them like that. If you just put them on top of the potatoes and just press down, they all crush out. And you do the whole lot at once. It's like, that's clever. And then you just put them onto the tray and that's it. And again, it's not about them all looking uniform or all looking this, that, or the other. Actually, sometimes, as you've found, gnarly and unexpected is wonderful. So, that's great. You think, whoa, I've stumbled onto something genius here. Let's do that again. Maggie.
Yeah, Ian, I was having this debate with my sister. So we're doing Christmas dinner in my house this year, and I've not done it for years. My husband will also do the turkey. But we were having a chat. The extent of my cooking normally is I put things in the slow cooker.
Yeah.
Because that's all I can manage. So I just chuck all in and away it goes and it does it for you.
Yeah.
She said that you can do a turkey in the slow cooker. And I don't think so. So you put it in and then what, how long?
Yeah, I do my whole chickens in the slow cooker. So basically all you do is, so the first things first, make sure it fits in the slow cooker and don't buy one that's sort of hanging out the side. So get one that will fit in. And all you need to do is if you take a bit of potato or any type of vegetable or something, just cut a little wedges so that the chicken or the turkey is not sitting on the bottom, because it'll release almost a load of juice. So if you can just get it slightly raised off the bottom, you put it in. If you want to, you can put a bit of lemon in there. You could put just put a little bit of seasoning on the top, put the lid on, put it onto a medium heat and leave it for 5 hours, 6 hours. It doesn't matter. It will not overcook. You can put it in there all day.
And then
as a meat, it's fabulous. The only thing you don't get by slow cooking it is you don't get a crispy skin because it's got nothing to crisp. So if you're happy without that, you can just peel that bit off and you've got the most wonderful chicken or turkey. But what you can do is if you just turn the grill on about 5 minutes before it's finished, to get someone to carry it for you and put it under the grill, and it will crisp up the skin in about 5 minutes. And then you've got perfectly cooked chicken or turkey with a crispy top. And the great thing about it is all the liquid that's in the bottom that's been cooking away, you can use that for anything, for soups, for gravies, for anything. So never throw that away either, because that's a wonderful thing to have as a little stock. So yeah, it creates the most delicious stuff on the bottom as well. But yeah, you can do it and it works.
Oh, she was right then. So
Yeah.
I better not tell my husband because he'll say that I can do the turkey now.
Yeah, slow cookers are brilliant for just, as you say, for just throwing stuff in and just letting it go. People ask me about what they call the other things that are the big thing at the moment. Not slow cookers.
Air fryer.
The air fryer, that's it. Yeah, and I've got one. I got one for Christmas last year, and I'm still trying to use it. But they're great. They are good. Yeah, they do work, and you can do so. Those roast potatoes I was talking about earlier, they're brilliant in an air fryer as well, because they'll be done in 5 to 6 minutes in an air fryer, with the ones where they're already cooked and you're just crisping them up. So yeah, they're really, really good for your veg as well, and for roasted vegetables, they're wonderful.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So just we've got 1 more minute. Does anyone else have a question? I think Ian's given us a really lovely offer of his website where we can ask questions, but does anyone have anything burning right now? Okay, I think you've flummoxed us all with how we actually can be in the kitchen. You've definitely changed my mindset about cooking, so thank you very, very much.